We're looking at a scope here, and we're just looking at time domain. Basically, it's a very simple circuit, a diode and a resistor in series, and I'm measuring the input voltage from the scope from the signal generator on the channel 1, channel A, channel 1 in yellow, and then channel 2 is over the diode. And that's not really what I want to show you. Just so notice that everything is really in spec here as far as sampling rate and what the scope sees. We aren't clipped, in other words. What we really want to see is there's a menu on here, and right now, as it says right here, it is Y to T. In other words, amplitude versus time, and we can change that. There's an XY, and we can select that one. And now what we're seeing, and this is why I chose a diode, is it gives us a very interesting curve for this. Now what it's showing is on the horizontal axis, it is showing us what is on channel 1. On the vertical axis, it's showing us what's on channel 2 against one another. And so if we we can't really mess with the time limit because there is no time at this time on there. Anyways, that's how you do it on this one. And it's just really cool. Now, let me show you some pitfalls. Let's go back. All right, so one of the pitfalls is we scale this incorrectly. So I just scaled that one side. It's huge. It clips off right here at the bottom, you can see. And we should be able to go to this now. And you can see how it clips off this side. So we don't see the entire waveform. Let's go back to. And this can be really bad if we have both channel 1 and channel 2. And now, channel 1, and go back to this menu. And now I've clipped it off on both sides. I can't really see what's going on there because I've clipped on both sides. We can do something just as bad. Let's switch back to this by making these really small. There, channel 1 is really small. Channel 2 is really small. Go back and remember, it's this, just so you know, it's this menu on the horizontal here. Let's switch it. So now our plot is so small you can barely see anything that's going on. And just so you know, I can scale those while they are still in this mode. Here's channel 2, what happens when I scale it. But you don't really get a feel for it, at least as far as I can tell, unless you look at, the time domain of what's going on here. And obviously we're at volt limit there. We can only go to 10 volts. But this is the thing. Another thing that you can do that would be kind of silly is to do something like this. Let's look at what the X versus Y. What's happening here, and I should go back and scale these properly. Okay, you can't really see it here, but you'll see it when you record it in MATLAB. It's just really, there isn't a lot of good resolution here. Let's go back to, oops, I pressed the wrong thing again. If we go back to this one, it's not going to give us the kind of resolution that we want. We can do a similar mistake by going like this and looking at it, and the resolution is going to be, so you want to have several waveforms, but not too many in one field to make it look really good like this. And you're going to want to have your waveforms scaled. And here's one other thing, DC coupling. If I switch to AC coupling on one of these channels, well, it just shifted me up on channel 2. On channel 1, it shouldn't much because that one is already a DC 0 signal. But you can see how that's going to really affect the, watch when I switch it there. It really did a shift there, so you have to make sure that you're DC coupled on these if you're worried about DC coupled when you're plotting X versus Y. One last thing, when I go here to utility and save it, or storage and save it, the problem that I have with saving this is that it's not going to save, at least as a data file, it's not going to save these data points. Well, it will, but it'll save the same data as if we did this. It'll save the same exact data. And the reason why that's not why that's not a problem is because all it did was used this data to make this. In other words, when you get your CSV file, there are going to be 3 columns. The first one is time, the second one is channel A or channel 1, and the third column is channel B or channel 2. This is just plotting channel 1 on the horizontal as the time domain or on the horizontal axis, and channel 2 or channel B on the vertical axis, which you can do in MATLAB using the plot command.